but that portion of the MSD subdrain is within that tailing capture zone. That's how that number is applied.
I have a question. I'm not sure who to direct it to, but if we had this data at the time where they were determining the waste in place remedy for parent tailings, would it have changed or influenced one way or the other the decision to keep the parent tailings in place? It's an order to 2 orders of magnitude difference.
Absolutely.
And I have a follow-up to that. Are the treatment lagoons equipped to deal with an order to 2 orders of magnitude difference in the amount of water that's flowing through the system through time? A water that we've already determined has a much higher concentrations of metals.
Mm-hmm.
One of the pieces of information that you've shared with us, or that everybody shared with us, is that we most of the time meet water quality standards. We don't always meet those water quality standards.
Yeah.
So those are 2 different questions, but they're connected, and I don't know who to address those to.
I think those are good questions. I think probably all of us have some comments on. First off, the conceptual site model addresses whether this remedy is effective or not. Looks at the change in this hydraulic connectivity that we drive, and looks at determining if the remedy is appropriate. And the conclusion of that CSM is that the remedy does appear to be appropriate to capture the paratailing occurring. And Trey, do you want to ask?
Yeah, I mean, if I can real quickly, because I work on the conceptual site model a little bit more than Mike has. Can I borrow your pointer?
Yeah.
Just so everybody understands the facts of the system. When it comes out of the parent tailings and the MSD collects it up there, we're close to 90 gallons to 100 gallons a minute. By the time we get down to Caw Avenue and down to where we pump it back all the way down to LAO, we're 550 on average, and we can go as high as 700 gallons. We have the capacity to pump up to 800 gallons a minute. We have not reached that yet. Also, what you see is you have water coming when you look at all the water coming from the area above the pit off the East Ridge and start flowing down this way, and you compare that to all the water coming out of Summit Valley, and you're looking at order of magnitudes more water coming down the Summit Valley than is coming down the old ancestral creek bed of Silverwell Creek. And then when you get down here, there's a geologic structure right at the end of LAO that essentially forces all of this groundwater back to the surface. So these ponds are all designed to collect groundwater and pump them back for treatment. So that's why we're trying to look at this system, and we'll have it for you. I think it'll be a lot clearer when we start putting all these pieces of the puzzle together up there. To answer your question about the treatment capacity down here, we have a capacity of about 1,600 up to 1,800 gallons a minute. We typically run between 1,000 and 1,200 right now. So we do have some excess capacity down there within our system.
What's the most you've seen?
Oh, I don't know. Sarah, do you know? Remember how much? I don't remember.
It goes
Per-
up sometimes when we have a storm events, but I can't tell you the number what we could get.
I think I've seen some 1,400, 1,500.
Okay, that's
But-
about
but
right.
I haven't
I'd say
seen- or-
1,400 is probably up to
Yeah.
the high number.
Thanks, Joe. I just couldn't remember.
And that's pretty unusual.
Did we answer your question? Sarah, did you want to add anything?
Julie does.
She's going to punt to me, give Sarah a break. Yeah, I would answer your question partly by saying, if you remember when we were writing the ROD, we had EPA's key question was, can we restore or clean up the groundwater to meet groundwater standards for the state? That was really the key question that we were trying to answer. In addition, did we understand enough about the aquifer system to make sure that we would continue to be protective of Silverbow Creek as we were cleaning up the rest of of the area with Silverbow Creek. The very simple answer to the question is even if we remove the parrot tailings, we didn't believe that we could completely clean up the aquifer to meet groundwater standards. And we felt that it was an appropriate response to deal with the capture system of the groundwater to prevent it from getting into Silverbow Creek. So it was a two-part question. What do we do with groundwater? How do we continue to protect Silverbow Creek? So that was made that we could leave the parrot tailings in place. We didn't have to remove them. It wouldn't add to our ability to clean up the aquifer for many, many, many years. And we felt that the capture system would be an appropriate remedy for protection of Silverbow Creek.
That was based on a hydraulic conductivity of 2.5 feet per
Yeah.
day compared to 600 feet per day.
Right, but I think again, it's a two-part question. Are you removing the tailings to clean up the groundwater? Our belief is no, that that's not going to get you there completely. And again, this is why it's important for us to update the site conceptual model. And as folks have been saying, is to really make sure that our remedy selection in terms of capturing groundwater as being protective of Silverbow Creek is still working.
For Atlantic Richfield BP, and I echo what Julie's saying. We want this remedy to work. It doesn't do us any good if this remedy doesn't work. If we weren't confident, our scientists weren't confident, that's why we're spending literally millions of dollars to do all these additional studies. That pump test was close to $500,000 to do. So we're spending the money, the resources to do the studies to make sure that we can get a consent decree that works for all the parties that are involved in this, whether it be the community code. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to do it as quickly as we can, but yet not miss anything. And I'll add that I think the next big question we've got to add, and we've already started talking about this, is we know there's the potential to move the water fast. We're not sure how fast it is moving through there, if there's enough water to move all the way through that pipe, if you want to call it that, at the speed that it has the potential to carry that water. But the second question is we know from, when you see the fingerprinting study, you'll see that there's different chemistries here in the groundwater, particularly water coming from the Summit Valley versus the water coming from the parrot tailings. What's happening with the interaction of those two waters? And secondly, what's happening with the attenuation capacity of these aquifers? How quickly, how much iron's in there, how much metals can be precipitated, how long will that last? Nick kind of hinted at it, will we see a breakthrough somewhere down the road? I mean, those are questions that we're working with EPA and everybody right now to try to resolve, to make sure that our conceptual site model is in fact complete.
And if I may, while you're there, one of the statements you made when you were speaking to the conceptual site model earlier was that it considers every significant investigation. And one of the significant investigations yielded data that now shows to be mischaracterized by orders of magnitude. Is that still part of the CSM, and is it being used in this?
This data that we all agreed upon is the data that was located, was embedded into the conceptual site model that did the hydraulic and mass flow calculations within each of these aquifers or units, as we call them, for the entire site. And you'll see that when it comes out. We've got to get it through the process before we can really make sure that it's correct and everybody agrees with it before you get it to the public, before EPA can get it to the public.
Just to add to that, understanding the site has been a work in progress. We start with these larger investigations, and a lot of the information that is in these investigations is not exactly correct, and so the ROD has made provisions to go after these additional areas that need more clarification. So it's kind of a summary of a work in progress. But no, we wouldn't use that data anymore because it's been replaced with much more superior information.
And is there opportunity to continue to gather superior information in order to potentially find other shortfalls such as this one?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Are
those
those
6
opportunities being taken before November 4th?
those 6 investigations that I listed in my presentation are kind of ongoing optimizations of the system. The work in progress. Trying to capture the seep that's coming out of Silverwood Creek. Looking at the effectiveness of the subdrain. Looking at the fingerprint to track where that groundwater is going and make sure that we're not missing it. So, yeah, I think these are all part of that ongoing effort.
Just want to ask again, who's developing and collaborating on this conceptual site model?
That's a good question. It's part of the CD, Sarah mentioned there's many people, up to 20 at some point. The Bureau's been in many of these meetings. We have EPA, our consultants, EQ is part of these. Atlantic Richfield is there. And we've got many more people than myself. It's private.
So when it's presented, will all the parties involved be agreeing on it? Is that what I'm understanding?
That's a tough question. We hope so. I mean, we think that the weight of evidence will show that, but, you know, it's just we've got to work the process. I should say that because of my comments at CTEC, they didn't come to the last presentation on the conceptual site model. I apologize to BNRC for that, but we will sit down with them and go through it so that they understand exactly where we are in terms of the model, putting it together.
I would like to add something to that. The Bureau has not been asked by any party involved to be a part of the site conceptual model, other than the evaluation of the aquifer test and the evaluation of fingerprint analysis.
Did we answer your second question? Starting on the second question.
Well, not really. I mean,
Yeah. I'm sorry, I forgot what
my concern is that one party puts out this conceptual site model, and we're to believe that this is the real deal. Where, and I understand there's other parties that have different opinions, but I don't see the worth of this conceptual site model if all the parties don't agree on the data. To some extent. I mean, how can if I go to the mechanic and the mechanic says, hey, you need a new engine, but two other mechanics tell me, no, you just need an oil change.
Yeah.
The mechanic stands to lose the most money.
Absolutely. EPA, do you guys want? You guys are kind of the sounding board, and EQ.
Certainly, at a minimum, and I'm sorry, Nick, that you didn't feel you were part of the fingerprinting and the pump test and all of the stuff that's going into the conceptual site model.
Let me clarify
So-
that, Sarah. I said that other than the fingerprint analysis and the aquifer test analysis, we are not included and we are not been asked to review the site conceptual model. That's what I said. That's all I said.
We want you looking at that stuff. It's simple as that. But the bottom line is, it's the Environmental Protection Agency's responsibility in this situation to look at and work with all of the parties to come up with the conceptual site model and move forward in the consent decree. Do I believe that we're gonna get everybody to agree on this? No. But we're gonna do our best to bring the parties to the table and come up with the best sound scientific decision on groundwater review.
To add to that just a little bit, I think this pumping test is kind of an example of the three different mechanics, so to speak. You know, looking at this report, we've got MBMG, we've got EPA, we've got Atlantic Richfield.